You're listening to the SSPX podcast and episode 6 of our interview series. In this series, we'll take a look inwards and give you a behind-the-scenes look at Angelus Press, which is the engine, the communications arm of the society in the United States. Father Paul Robinson has recently taken over as Publisher of Angelus Press, and we'll look at the history of the organization, the most important aspects, the visible work, the hidden projects, and we'll even ask Father to pick some of his favorite books that you can't find at Angelus Press. Of course, we'd love to hear your comments about what you'd like to see, either printed, in video, or in audio, in the comments below. Now let's join the editor of Angelus Press, James Vogel, and Father Robinson now.
Father, thank you again for joining us. You are known a bit to those who watch our podcast already, but can you introduce yourself again, especially since this podcast is about Angelus Press, with your new title and what that entails?
Well, Jim, I think I would just firstly like to introduce myself as a longtime friend of Jim Vogel. It's a particular disposition of divine providence in the mercy of God, as I would see it, that we've known one another for a very long time, and going back into the last millennium, where as you recall, I dug up old emails and found email exchanges from us in the late 90s.
I can no longer deny it.
Mm-hmm. And as I say, I mean, I think for every single one of us, we don't know where our life will take us. And you and I, back in the 90s, we were getting out there in the communication sphere, building our websites, right, and trying to promote the faith in our little way back then, you know. And here we are.
And at least for me, finding the old mass and tradition, and I think you were raised in it, or somehow that's not how
I
you
grew up
found
traditional,
it, right? So
and as I say, I mean, to find ourselves here,
it's humbling. But,
about 25 years later,
it's true.
You know, collaborating in this work of Angelus Press for the Society of St. Pius X, not something that either one of us could have predicted.
It was not on the bingo card. There's not even a good conspiracy theory about it yet.
But it has happened. In the disposition of God's providence, we're now collaborating with Angelus Press. Of course, you have a long experience with Angelus Press. How many years has it been now?
It's been a little over 18, I think.
18 years.
Yeah.
Or
17 or 18.
17 or 18. And for me, this is something that's impressive about Angelus Press. It was founded in 1978. So it's going to be celebrated its 45th anniversary this year. There, some water has flown under the bridge. There's a history there now to Angelus.
Yeah. And it's an interesting history, maybe to jump ahead a little bit, because it did start 45 years ago, really, with just a few laymen in Dickinson, Texas. I mean, really in the chaos of the late 70s, trying to get basic Catholic material and the confusion and the crisis to people long before the internet. Father Pulvermacher, obviously, kind of formalizing that a little bit, and then the Society of St. Pius X kind of taking Angelus Press under its wing, and even to some extent getting the endorsement of Archbishop Lefebvre. But certainly to this day, we continue to distribute and publish good books. We still have our magazine, which was also founded in 1978. But I mean, the very podcast we're recording is a sign, I think, of the extent to which it's developed. So, now between everything from the conference, the various ways we use audio and video, and the websites, as our new publisher, what is the most important part of the apostolate of Angelus Press to you? Because even though you're new as publisher, you're certainly not new to the work of Angelus Press. So maybe you have some thoughts there.
Yeah, well, stepping into this role, and certainly relying a lot on your own experience as the editor. For me, the most important part of the apostolate is getting the word out about tradition. So first of all, to those who are already traditional Catholics, to provide them the resources they need to live their traditional Catholic faith, the resources in the form of the printed word,
Sure.
And also the online resources. But besides that as well, of course, the apostolate to the world, the larger Catholic world, outside of SSPX circles, you would know better than I do how many people come to us in looking for those resources. Not, of course, on the crisis of the church, so addressing the crisis of the church, but also just Catholic spirituality, learning about the traditional Mass, and coming to us saying, give me the faith of my fathers that I feel like I've been deprived of in the Novus Ordo world. So for me, the most important thing is simply spreading traditional Catholicism.
Sure.
That's what we're about.
Sure. And I would emphasize one thing, which is that oftentimes, if we talk about, let's say, books or let's say material, tangible things on the one hand, and then podcasts or other electronic media on the other hand, they're not mutually exclusive. It's very often the case that someone will see a podcast or listen to a sermon or watch a live streamed event and then go buy a missal or a catechism, and that can lead to looking up the closest Latin Mass, which can look to finding out, well, why, what happened in the church? Why is it the way that it is? And so, from my perspective, we're not trying to reach two separate groups of people, right? There's not this group that just reads books and this group that just reads things online. I think there's a lot of overlap, and I wonder how you see balancing that expansion on our end as we grow into more audio and video, and at the same time print more and more books.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about our approach to balancing that?
Yeah, I think it's delicate. It's delicate, Jim, because of the fact that the printed word, there's something more substantial there. I think of Neil Postman's book about television and the visual media as opposed to the printed media. With the printed word, there's something that is static and that remains. And whereas the visual media is just flashing and changing, it's very ephemeral. And at the same time, it's not intrinsically evil,
right?
And it's something that's becoming more and more prevalent, that people go for information to the visual media or the audio media rather than the printed word. So we definitely, I think, over time necessarily are going to be shifting more towards the audio and the visual, while at the same time, I believe it's important that we maintain the printed media as well. It might be in less concentration, perhaps, but in order, we have to continue to reflect and think seriously. And even on the side of our YouTube channel, for instance, or our news site, or what have you, I think people will note a little bit of a different spirit from the typical YouTube channel. And that is that we're not into clickbait sensationalism. We're not explicitly, as many channels are, just trying to grab your attention for a short and superficial topic. But we really are looking to instruct people in the faith. And so a lot of our podcasts are on deep issues, and they require a bit more effort, I think, on the part of the listener than the typical YouTube channel. So I think that's a big way in which we try to balance it out, is to provide that audio and visual content, but at the same time not cheapen it by just making it sensational and clickbaity. Yeah.
And maybe a good a contrast. I mean, we do have a news site, or let's say we assist the Society General House with the English side of their news site, so fsspx.news, where there's almost daily analysis of the news. But I think that's important to emphasize too, is that the Society doesn't have boots on the ground doing investigative journalism. It's more of looking at what's going on in the church and the world, and giving some kind of analysis for the reader to take away a perspective that you might not get somewhere else in the Catholic world. So even though that exists with the podcast, I think the idea, especially when you talk about clickbait or something like that, is that the podcast we do should be, for the most part, just as relevant 5 or 10 years from now as they are today. So I think if our Crisis in the Church podcast, or even the series we're working on right now with vocations, or the upcoming one on apologetics, there's a certain timelessness of the topic, if not the medium.
Yes.
I don't know if that's maybe part of what you were saying.
Yes, exactly. So we're not reacting to the latest event,
right.
but we're working more on the level of principles and instruction in the faith. And as you say, with the Crisis in the Church series, you've got those two aspects. And one is that the topics that are treated are just treated very thoroughly.
Yeah.
So they go into great detail to basically expose the reason for why we take the positions we take in very great detail. And on the other hand, they're not about current events. They're about things that have happened in the past, or they're simply about the traditional teachings of the church, things that have always been believed. And while on the one hand, when somebody looks at their YouTube feed, they won't be looking like, oh wow, this is some video about the latest thing going on, the latest scandal, or the latest conspiracy theory. Mm-hmm. But they will be able to, for the indefinite future, be able to say, if I want to be instructed on this topic, this video is available for me, and I can go there and I can find a very deep presentation, treatment of that topic. So on the one hand, we're losing those viewers who are just looking to blow time on the internet, but we're gaining those more solid viewers who are wanting deep content.
Yeah, and it has been encouraging to see that growth, because you can speak more to this than I can, but I think the reality is that as an apostolate of the Society of St. Pius X, it's not a humble brag, it's just the reality that real life lived out in the world. So if you're a regular person looking for, where am I going to go to Mass? If I have a family, where am I going to raise my family? What kind of schools are available? How are things going in the church in the world, and what am I supposed to do as far as my duty of state goes? The Society of St. Pius X offers a sort of a viable path forward that a random, let's say, YouTube or even podcast series doesn't provide, right? So it's more than just giving you the principles. I mean, the whole nature of the organization really is. I'll let you give the pitch, but we can say that Archbishop Lefebvre did not found the Society of St. Pius X to do podcasts, but there's a reality there that hopefully we point to, that you represent better than I do. So maybe you want to speak about really the work of the society and how that undergirds all of the efforts here.
Yes. I think that's a very valuable point that you make, Jim, and that is that Angelus Press is a piece of an entire picture. Mm-hmm. That when you zoom out and you see the entire picture, that emphasizes all the more that spirit of our YouTube channel, and that is that we in the society, we play the long game, and that comes from our founder, Archbishop Lefebvre. He wanted to establish traditional Catholic communities by forming priests, good priests. So he had this vision of forming good priests who would provide schools, priests who would provide parishes, priests who would provide the traditional sacraments, and here we are in 2023, and we've been around for over 50 years now. And I think about some of our mission chapels, even where we've sent a priest to those chapels almost without fail every single Sunday for like 30 or even sometimes 40 years, and been able to provide the Mass and the sacraments for those people, and therefore provide a haven for those families, a place where they can go to receive the true faith. So we, Angelus Press, as you mentioned, can be part of people's journey, and can be part of nourishing them while they're going to our chapels. But the work of the society is churches, schools, camps, retreats, publications, podcasts, all of these things in order to save souls, and the understanding that people have to live a complete life. And it's not, we're not sitting in front of webcams to make money and to run a business, or to see what sort of YouTube revenue we can generate. I'm not wanting to say that to criticize people who do make their living off of that. I mean, okay, fair enough. Maybe they have a very good message. I don't know, but that's not what we're about. We're founded simply for the work of saving souls, and we have a family. We have a spiritual family that has all the components necessary to provide people with the things they need to save their souls. So there are a few questions, Jem, just because you've been with Angelus Press so much longer than I have, that I would like to ask you, since we're on the topic of Angelus, and perhaps instruct me a little bit as I've stepped into this role 6 months ago. So I guess many people may not know that there is an apostolic side of Angelus Press, and a bit of an outreach to the prisons and other things. So maybe you could say something about that.
Sure. And I would preface that by saying that, in general, the way I look, or not just the way I look at it, but it's true that Angelus Press is an apostolate. So we exist to help the society and to do all the things you just mentioned. But we have to balance the reality that we have a growing team of employees, and we have bills to pay. We have studios now, and we have big plans for the future, with the fact that ideally, if I can put it this way, we would love to give away as many things as possible for free for the salvation of souls. It's why we don't charge for the podcast. It's why we don't charge for the news site. Many of the newsletters that we help the district or the general house with, whether that's the Regina Chaley Report, the Foreign Missions Trust, those are all free publications. But to your point, we do try to specifically give away content, usually in the forms of actual books, material things, catechisms to priests. That's the first category, especially priests who are looking for information about the traditional Mass, priests who are looking for traditional doctrine, or maybe even looking towards the society as a future home. We try, and we do give away those resources anytime we find someone looking for them. We do have a robust and growing prison apostolate, where people sort of either formally through some priests or through some laymen who have successfully started these programs, identify the basic needs that a prisoner might have, and those can range everything from a Bible to works on the crisis in the church. So we do solicit donations for those, as well as occasionally trying to raise money for donating books or religious goods to the missions. Obviously, the society is international. We've got a number of places overseas that do speak English, and so when we can, and another thing we would like to grow is this work of ideally getting books and materials as cheaply as possible, if not free, to these places. So we take great pride in the quality of the books we print, and we sell them justly and as reasonably as we can. And I think that sometimes can be confusing. Why do you charge money for certain things you do, like your conference? We do have a conference, which is great every year, and we love encourage people to attend. And at the same time, we do raise money for certain things which are not really intended to be revenue generating. So we try to make that distinction as much as we can. It might not always be clear, but it all ultimately flows from the fact that our goal is to help the society save as many souls as possible, to help the church, And the bottom line is that the more money that we receive in donations, the more we can help other souls reach the treasures that you might have. So.
Okay. So would you mind just giving a few details about that prison ministry? I mean,
Sure.
do you have any stories, for instance, of prisoners who we've reached out to and they've appreciated the
Sure.
materials we sent, and what kind of materials are we sending them?
Sure. So the first thing I would say is that it's not one program, meaning we ourselves don't organize this from here. What we've found over the years is that there were either pre-existing programs where, for instance, one gentleman in Texas, whom we've highlighted in the past, Mike Bongebach, has this little ministry where he has, of his own charity, started visiting prisons and finding out that even just trying to help the Catholics who are already there, they often don't have good material to read, or they don't know where to go to get good material. He did quite a bit on his own and with the help of his local priest. And then over the years, we've kind of formalized that, where he basically collects from prisoners, almost like a Christmas list, right? So these are books I would want. These are books I would need. And we try to accommodate as much as we can. So we try to start with the basics, right? If they're not a Catholic, the Catechism, Sacred Scripture, things like that. Maybe some basic spiritual reading, how to pray the Rosary, how to meditate, even things like that. And then for people who are interested in a little more of the history of the Society of St. Pius X, the works of Archbishop Lefebvre, Open Letter to Confused Catholics, some introductory texts to the crisis. But in Texas there, they have, for instance, I think once a month, Father Katzeroff, one of our priests, goes and says Mass, and I believe he's even baptized and received into the church some prisoners. Wow. So that's one man who's done a tremendous amount of work. But there are other places in America where there are efforts underway to get something ongoing like this. It usually does depend on some kind of person at the local level who can let's say arrange the details, because every state's a little different. Every prison is frankly a little different. But we do, in addition to that, keep up correspondence with a lot of these prisoners. So between the staff here and some friends, some priest friends even, who we try, there are often, you can imagine, questions of a spiritual nature that we receive from prisoners, and we have a priest or two that help us with those. So it's incredibly edifying to see the gratitude. A lot of these people are not... maybe historically didn't lead the best lives, and it's true. It's a mercy of God to find either the faith or tradition or some place to get some sustenance in 2023. But again, we hope to do more of that. And as always, if there are people out there who do this work or who are interested in doing this kind of work, we can do two things. We can put anyone who is interested in touch with the people who are doing these. They might be able to learn something and start something on their own in that way. And of course, certainly anyone who knows prisoners or is interested in this ministry in some way, we're always happy to talk to them and explain what we do. And that's another great example where donations go a long way in the prisons. So.
Okay. And I suppose the prisoners themselves, they spread the word around when...
They might. I don't know too much about that. Certainly in places where there's an active program, they see people getting books and things like that. But again, this is where a lot can change from prison to prison. They don't always... an individual person doesn't always love an influx of books. They get a lot of things sent for free anyway. So we have to almost establish a reason why these books are being sent. They've been solicited. We're not just spamming the prison with free material. But so far, that's been a hurdle, but one we've been able to jump.
Okay. So. Yeah. You mentioned the Angelus Press conference. If I could switch gears to circle back around to that, just could you say a little bit more about what kind of experience that is for the people who attend, and also about this year's conference, what is planned for it, when it's going to happen, and where?
Sure. Yeah. So the general idea for the conference goes back to some meetings we had in 2010, and the idea of a conference itself, of course, is nothing new, both at the general public and even for ourselves. But the question was, well, what would make our conference unique, right? Why should the society do a conference? And it is analogous in some way to what you mentioned earlier about the nature of online versus real life content.
Yeah.
We tend to, we decided, I should say, and we've kept it up until now, we pick a theme and we try to build a set of talks around that theme. So it can be the kingship of Christ, it can be the papacy, it can be something about Our Lady. And the reason is that, I mean, a conference itself is great. It's 3 days of camaraderie with like-minded people, sometimes getting to meet some of the speakers you may have read about or whose works you may have read themselves. Usually we're blessed to have a bishop of the society there, so there's a pontifical high mass, which many people haven't seen. It's really quite an experience. It's meant to be something where, for a lot of people, you don't necessarily live around or with like-minded people most of your life, and so to have a weekend where you're not just being formed, you're not just able to have access to the sacraments, but that you can basically visit and spend time with other traditional Catholics has borne great fruit for us. But the purpose of the actual conference, I say the formal element, is the talks, which we record and distribute, again, ideally forever, so that if you were sitting here now wanting, let's say, a traditional Catholic understanding of, let's say, what family life should look like, you can go back and buy the audio from whatever year we did that, and it should still be just as relevant as it was then. So that's kind of the goal. This year we are doing what looks at first to be a kind of repeat. So I mentioned just now that we've done a conference on the family before, and of course all of these topics can't be exhausted in a single weekend anyway. But the question of the family has more than one aspect. So you have the sort of the questions in principle, and then you have the modern world and how we apply, let's say, the traditional Catholic principles to the here and now. So last year we focused on, again, what seemed to be a broad theme, which is restoration and how that can be applied to different aspects of life and the church's life. And this year we're going to do something on the modern world and how, especially, again, focusing more on the practical side of applying traditional Catholic principles to today. So we've announced the location and we've announced the date. That'll be at the Overland Park Hilton, October 21 through 24 this year. Same place we had it last year. And we should have a list of speakers and topics out in the next few weeks. So this is early January as we're recording. So by the time you see this, you might have, there should be more information available. But
okay,
yeah,
good.
It's an exciting topic. And I think it's one that is particularly, it's one that's been asked for many times. So
yes. A lot of big families out there in the traditional Catholic world, and looking for some solutions to deal with modern issues. Would you mind just speaking a little bit about the resources that are available online, independent of the YouTube channel, but like the news site and sspx.org, and I think. Also, that the daily devotional that I think is becoming very popular.
Yes. Yeah, sure. So there are several things, as you mentioned. We help manage the English side of the news site. So that is something that more or less comes every day, especially during the week. Shorter articles, analysis heavy based on whatever happens to be in the news. That's at fsspx.news. You can get that by email as well.
So just to clarify, so this is news that comes from overseas, from our international house.
The General House of the Society has a news service that operates in, I think, 4 or 5 different languages. So we sort of manage the English language side of that. We translate and publish what comes from the General House. And then in addition to that, on sspx.org, which is the district website, we have news or articles that would be either more relevant to an American audience or come from the archives, which sounds funny, but once you've been in existence for almost 50 years, there's a lot of content that's either been buried or isn't available in an electronic format. So we try to use some of that material for different reasons, both for the sake of history. It's sometimes good to remember what came before us or why certain decisions were made. And also, we do have a kind of archive available online, but it's easy to get lost in it unless you know exactly what you're looking for. So there's that. You mentioned the daily devotional, which is relatively speaking a new project, but it's a free daily email that you subscribe to from the district website, sspx.org. You get a small meditation, usually from one of our books, a little quote from the Archbishop, and then some liturgical information of the day, the saint, sometimes the introit or the reading schedule, and then sometimes also some news or additional, like for big feasts or for things going on in the society's orbit, like ordinations or confirmations, things like that. We also have a separate website for the magazine, for the Angelus, which is angelusonline.org. That's in the middle of being updated a bit, but you can get back issues of the Angelus there. I think everything over 18 months is available online for free.
Wow.
You can also subscribe to an electronic version of the magazine there if you'd like. And then, of course, we do have social media profiles. We have things on places like Facebook and Twitter, but those are really just placeholders to direct you back to a lot of the things I just mentioned. But you can still contact us at those places if you have questions or are looking for something. So,
right. Okay. Yeah. And Instagram as well. There's the
yes.
And I think our podcasts are on a bunch of different platforms.
Yeah, YouTube and Apple Podcasts and a lot of the podcast-specific apps. They should be on all the major ones.
Yeah. Maybe we can just talk a little bit about the magazine, Angelus Magazine, and its history and its current form. It's been recently rebranded, from what I understand, and maybe you could just say a little bit about that as well.
Sure. There's a lot of history there, but I'll give you the brief version. It did start again in 1978, and it was a very simple way of getting general news out to traditional Catholics. If you go back and look in our archives, it includes things like where can I find Mass if I live in this part of the country, who has old copies of missals or books for a library for personal use, and then what's going on in Rome. There was an aspect of news that it covered in the 1970s when you could still cover news in a periodical.
Right.
And you see in the 1980s this shift towards more of a journal, a proper journal, getting away. I mean, there's always still an element of news and an element, but really it starts to identify more as the publication of just really now the SSPX. So you're getting what's Archbishop Lefebvre doing, what's the society doing in America and the broader English-speaking world. This really does start to take up, this gathers steam after the split of the 9 in 1983, because without going into a lot of details, there were 2 districts in America with 2 magazines, and then there was one, and the Angelus is the one that stayed with the society. So really it comes into its own then and proceeds apace through the 80s. And I would say in the 90s, when Father Kenneth Novak spent a good deal of time as the editor, he did, I would say, the first rebranding, right? He professionalized it, got it into color, really tried to standardize the process, meaning the way it looked, what you could come to expect, and then starting for a time what we've now taken on, which is having thematic issues, similar to what we do with the conference. So you get a copy of the Angelus, it's on a topic, and if you are interested in the topic, you'll keep it and hopefully return to it for many years to come. And then just 2 years ago, we rebranded again. We decided, kind of due to popular demand, to move away from the branding for the magazine, for the Angelus, and return it to a more, let's say, color-heavy, art-heavy, let's say, easier-to-read format. And so that seems to be popular. And we've also shifted a little bit of the focus more towards more practical and, let's say, cultural aspects of Catholicism. So, as always, we appreciate any feedback there, whether you loved one iteration of it or another. If there are authors or themes you would like to see more of or less of, that's all feedback that we would love to have. And, the magazine has been in existence for 45 years, so we would like to see the Angelus stick around for another 45 if possible.
Absolutely. It's a great magazine, and people can find information about how to subscribe on SSPX.org or Angelus Press.
AngelusPress.org,
AngelusPress.org.
and then AngelusOnline.org as well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think about what we haven't talked about, and I think it's the books.
It is the books.
We haven't talked about the bread and butter.
It is in some way the most important thing that we do. So I'll ask you, as our newly minted publisher, what are the most important Angelus Press books for you?
In my mind, I think the most important books that we have are of course the books by the Archbishop, like such as the Open Letter to Confused Catholics, or even the spiritual works, the book on the spiritual life, and the various compilations of the sermons of the Archbishop, and Michael Davies' Apologia per Marcel Lefebvre, for me is really important, especially at this time where we're kind of going back in time as far as the traditional movement goes. We're in a situation with Traditionis Custodes and perhaps whatever might come after it. We're in a situation that is similar to the early days of the traditional movement, and that history, I think, is very helpful for people who are wondering what's going on in the church right now. But besides that, the Michael Davies books that Angelus has published for decades, his trilogy on the Council and the Mass, and other works of Michael Davies, like on religious liberty.
Sure.
I think those books are kind of like the bedrock of what we are. Would you agree?
I think so, and I think I'll maybe double down on what you said about the apologias. So for people who don't know, these are basically blow-by-blow accounts of what happened in the 70s leading all the way up to 1982. So primarily about Archbishop Lefebvre and the Society of St. Pius X, but really what was going on in the church at large.
Yes.
And you might actually think that these are academic or boring. I mean, it can be overwhelming. It's 3 volumes, and it's like, well, that's a lot of history to read, but it's a page turner in a lot of ways.
It really is.
There's a lot of history there that has been forgotten that is absolutely still relevant to anyone trying to navigate the current chaos in the church. So as an example, somebody once wrote in, or maybe complained to us somehow, that they wish Archbishop Lefebvre had never used the term conciliar church, because that seems to muddy the waters, and is it a different church? And it's in the Apologia that you'll find that it was not Archbishop Lefebvre who invented that term. It was Benelli to Archbishop Lefebvre.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was almost tongue-in-cheek. I think you get the impression from the Archbishop, like, well, if you're going to call it the conciliar church. But that's just one example. The letters back and forth between Paul VI and Archbishop Lefebvre, and again, what the status was of the traditional Latin Mass, which was actually at that time, at least Rome was claiming it was abrogated. So, so all those things are, they're worth going back to for many reasons, I say. Yes,
definitely. But I think there's another aspect of the Angelus Press offerings where, on the level of spirituality and also for families, there's a lot of books that are now offered with regards to the Mass. There's the Officium Divinum, and there's also the Missal, which I think is extremely popular, 1962 hand Missal. Yes. But as I say, a lot of books for children, and for parents to instruct their children in the faith, or for them to have things to take to Mass, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're at the point where, although we're constantly growing all categories, we aim to be a place where you can find everything you just mentioned, and really then all of the above, right? So if you're interested in church history, we have books about that. If you're interested in the church's social doctrine, we have books like that. And anyone who likes books knows that there are, broadly speaking, 2 kinds of books. There's the kind you sit down and read cover to cover, and then there's the kind that you want to have around to use, like a missal, right? You're not going to read a missal back to back. Maybe you would, but not normally. And so we've tried deliberately to have all of those things. So the kind of books like a catechism, which a family might need, or Lives of the Saints, all the sort of classical Catholic books, again, that we either publish directly or we distribute. We, again, for almost since the beginning, we've worked with other Catholic publishers carrying their works. There's certainly too much work to be done for any one publisher, but
sure.
And again, if there's ever anything in particular, a topic, an author that people are looking for, we encourage them to ask us. But,
yes. How many books are available through Angelus Press these days, Jim?
If you count, they're not all counted equally, because you have the ones we printed, you have the ones we carry, and then you have booklets, you have all different kinds. It's somewhere between 300 and 400 titles.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
I could inflate that by, if I include all the booklets and pamphlets and articles, it's over 1,000. But I won't do that.
Yeah, like the encyclicals.
The encyclicals.
I'm a big fan of encyclicals, but they're probably not flying off the shelves. But
I am here for any pitch you want to make for people to read encyclicals.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe we could just talk a little bit about the production schedule we have for this year, and some of the things we hope to bring out, and also the initiatives we hope to have with our podcast.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to go first or not. I can at least share a few of the things from our production schedule that I think are exciting, and I include the podcast in that as well. I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier in passing, but a series on apologetics, which, as such, has nothing to do with, again, this is not an SSPX particular thing. This is really how to present how to present the Catholic position on, let's say, the most common objections to the faith, right? And I think we've actually technically started recording that, but that will go out through the entirety of this year. So that's an exciting project, I think.
Yeah, I've actually recorded the first 3 episodes with Andrew, and we're hoping they appear later on in the month. And we've got a number of priests lined up to do those podcasts. But besides me, it's not all just Father Robinson. Thanks be to God. But we're hoping to have them come out each week, starting at the end of January, and have between 30 to 40 episodes in that series.
Excellent. On the book side, I have to say one project that I think it's dear to my heart, but I think everyone will appreciate is the picture book of Archbishop Lefebvre. So an actual formal coffee table book that has high quality images with a little bit of history with captions and things about his life. I feel like there's a dozen or 15 pictures of Archbishop Lefebvre that everyone has seen and knows.
Right.
But his life is really extraordinary. Starting in France and the years in Africa, and certainly the years as Superior General of the Holy Ghost Fathers. And I don't think we're going to find any new pictures at this point, but we have been able to. And when I say we, it's certainly not just us. I think of the Seminary de Caen and Father Wegener in Austria. A whole team of people in the District of France as well have worked on collecting and cleaning up these pictures to the extent that we can, and so we're hoping to get that out in 2023, and I think that'll be of great interest.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're finishing the Father Troadec series, so
okay.
Anyone who's familiar with the books that follow the liturgical year, the little books of meditations, also often part of those daily emails, the devotionals we mentioned. Those are all translated from French, and we should be finishing those this year, so it will finally make a complete series.
So that's sort of like a series of books for daily meditations.
Year.
Yeah. Kind of a little reminds me a little bit about the Year of Grace by Father Parsh, Pius Parsh. Yeah, but briefer than Father Parsh.
Yes,
but definitely something to think about each day, to meditate upon.
Yeah.
Related to the liturgical year. Yeah. And I mean, with regards to the podcast, we're also hoping to get more of the Questions with Father series, episodes of that series, also more interview series like here at the studio, hopefully get more people involved in that. And I'm just throwing this out there, but eventually to to grow our YouTube channel. I'm hoping that we will be able to have some live recordings,
Yes.
Where people can comment or ask questions in real time. Again, on that we would be talking about less about newsy things,
Sure.
but more about timeless issues such as the encyclicals of the popes, or
Sure.
other aspects of the faith. And I think that would be something well appreciated by our subscribers.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, Father, again, as the new publisher, are there any particular initiatives you are looking forward to launching or being a part of this coming year? Maybe even, again, things on the production schedule, or...
Yeah, I think that we have a lot of interesting titles that we're going to be publishing in the upcoming year. Right now, I'm just reading through the biography of St. Thomas Aquinas by Brother William of Taco. He was a contemporary of St. Thomas Aquinas, and just a really, really nice biography. I think that's going to be well liked.
I think it's true to say it's the oldest biography of St. Thomas.
The oldest biography.
Never before translated from Latin. Is that correct?
Yes, never before translated. First time it's going to appear in the English language, which is astonishing. I think we've all heard a lot of stories about St. Thomas.
Sure.
We know the stories that are in there, but
Sure.
it's quite something to see them where they came from. So that's something that I think will be popular. And as I say, definitely, I'm hoping that we can be able to produce more content for our YouTube channel. It's kind of one of the, I think, negative sides of modern media is that people expect a lot of content.
Yeah.
You have to always be producing content, and I don't think that's who we are, because we're not newsy, but I think we do have a lot of things to talk about,
Sure.
And some good content to provide, and I'm hoping that we can ramp that up a bit in this year. And hopefully, as I say, achieve our purpose of getting the word out about traditional Catholicism. I think it's a key moment right now, Jim, with regards to the traditional Catholic movement. We've had so many people, more people interested in us or looking for what we provide than in past years, because of the crackdown on the traditional Mass. And we want to be able to be there, for those people, and have the resources that they're looking for to provide for them. So I think that we will definitely continue that work in this coming year, and hopefully expand our audio and visual media, especially. Right. Well, it's good working with you, Jim.
Likewise. As always, we ask, we're always happy to have people's prayers, and the normal like, share, subscribe, and if you're so inclined, again, you can. I want to point out, instead of just vaguely asking for money, that there are specific ways to I should say, you can shepherd your money into a specific part of the apostolate. So as an example, if you really want to see more podcasts, or you want to see more content here, we do solicit funds just for the podcast. So you can go to sspx.gifts and scroll down to podcasts, or contact us and say it's for the podcast. That does help us even know specifically where people want their money to go. So other than that, the usual forms of support, every single day is appreciated. Every single day we see the fruits of it. So it is humbling to work for such an apostolate, and look forward to a busy year.
Yes, absolutely, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to or watching the SSPX podcast. Please keep in mind the best way to help more people see these videos and to hear this podcast is to subscribe on YouTube, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and rate or review wherever you listen. Also, please remember, this is an apostolate. It's free to listen or to watch anytime, but we also need your help. Would you please consider submitting a one-time donation, or sign up for a small $5, $10, or $20 a month donation at sspxpodcast.com? This helps us to continue this important work of sharing the beauty and the truth of traditional Catholicism with as many people as possible. Until next time, thank you for listening, and God bless you.